I was thinking about your comments about stories, and Dale's familiar with a program we started at Bacardi called Living Legends. And what we did, our company was founded in Cuba. We were later exiled from Cuba, almost without anything. And the company was almost lost. Had it not been for some forward thinking by some people at the time, the company Bacardi would not exist. So we started this program called Living Legends. And what we're doing is we're tapping people who were part of the Cuba experience. And we were exiled from Cuba in the late 1950s. And why are stories so important, Dale? Because those people are dying off. We're going to lose those people who created the Bacardi company. And so we created this initiative to have them come back and tell stories. And think about your own company. How many of your companies have gone through some tough times? Hard times? Ever feel like it's just you, right? But when you have these guys, the guy who started out talking, his name is Juan Grau, 88 years old. He lives in Mexico. We flew him in 2 different times, once into Florida and once to another location, to speak to groups of employees. And like all companies, we've had some challenges and have some challenges. But when he talks about what they were going through, our stuff's easy, right? And that's what stories give you. They give you that continuity. They give you a sense of what was happening then and what's happening now. And you see, as you mentioned, some of the consistency that exists through year after year after year. And the reason we brought them back is so that we can develop new storytellers. Because if you think about it, great events, great families, all have great stories. Think about your own families. How many of you, think about the person in your family who tells the family stories the best. Right? I see some of you smiling, some of you turning red because the story was about you. But all those stories are what keep us together. It's part of what we belong to. And I'll share a little bit more about that in a little bit. But first of all, Bacardi. I saw that many of you, when you came over, quickly found the bar. I'm glad. That's part of our business, because we are in the business about making good times great. Isn't that a great thing to do? You know, I thought about all the different places I worked, and here we're not saving the world, in one sense. We're not doing something to change things, but I think about making people happy. It's a pretty good job, right? And you think about how important it is whenever you celebrate anything in life, whether it be small with an individual, a group of friends, or a large group, usually there's beverages involved. And I see a lot of nods, good. And we'd like those beverages to be Bacardi beverages. And you saw part of our portfolio there. You'll see more of them later tonight. But as I was teasing Dale and others earlier, if you drink too much, that good time is no longer a great time. So please, drink responsibly. All right. So what we're going to talk about today. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Bacardi in a moment. And then we're going to talk about what is engagement. What really is it? We all use that word regularly. We hear it regularly. But what is it? Right? And then next, how do you know if you got it? And what can you do to get it if you don't have it? And how do you keep it? Sounds real academic, doesn't it? So we're going to talk about in real terms, in real practical terms, because that's what you work in. You got to be able to relate to people and not sound like you're reading off a book. It's got to be practical, it's got to make sense, and it's got to be real stuff that matters in your company. So today I'm going to share with you some things from Bacardi, but it's not that we've got it all figured out. Not by any stretch. There's still so much we can do better, stuff we can learn, and we're going to have to keep working at it. So I also hope today that either through the Q&A or over at the bar, I'd like to hear some of your ideas, because I'm not afraid to steal from anybody. Anybody's got a good idea, I'll steal, right? But I want to share with you some of ours and just tell you how we're approaching it. And I hope that maybe there's something in there that you hear that gives you a thought. Or again, if you see something you like, take it, go with it. And we're going to give you the presentation. And also I have Katya here tonight. And so raise your hand, Katya. She didn't want me to call her, but She will also help answer questions at the bar about some of the things that we're doing. She's based here in London. So, a little bit more about Bacardi. We are the largest family-held spirits company in the world. And we started out with just the brand Bacardi, but since then we've added, we have about 200 brands. The core brands that you might know besides Bacardi is we have Dewar's, we have Bombay Sapphire, we have Grey Goose, and again, a host of Martini and Rossi, and a host of others. We just recently purchased Saint-Germain, which you will get to try later tonight. If you haven't tried it, guarantee you're going to love it. It's a great product. And most of our products are more the kind of top shelf products. But it started out as only a spirits company, as you saw, in Cuba, and that is our birthplace. We're 153 years old, and Dale, we celebrate the birthday every year and have for 153 years.
We will from now on. Okay.
And I'll tell you what products you should have to celebrate. Never miss an opportunity to celebrate. We operate in over 160 markets, and we have what we call 5,000 Bacardi ambassadors. And when I think of myself, I don't like to think of myself in my role, but more as a Bacardi ambassador, right? And kind of what you were saying, Dale, we actually have a program we're creating, and I'll flash it up a little bit later as well. My vision is that we're going to take people through this ambassador training. I don't know what we'll call it in the end, because we actually have people who are Bacardi ambassadors, brand ambassadors, but people who will be these brand ambassadors, and when we come to a meeting, it won't say who you are and your title, it'll simply say you and you're a brand ambassador across the world, no matter what position you're in. And it's that kind of equal playing field, because it really doesn't matter. What matters is we're all on the same team, we all want the same things, and we all belong to the same group. So this is one of our actual ads that just tells you our attitude. We're a little bit playful, we like to have a little bit of fun, and we like people to see it. So earthquakes, fires, exile, prohibition, sorry fate, you picked on the wrong family. Right? We're here to fight, we're here to survive. So we got a little bit of attitude to us. And so that gives you a very quick view of Bacardi. Now, also thought if we're going to be engaged, we should know each other a little bit. And I hope to get to speak to all of you personally tonight through the cocktail time and through Q&A. But I want to introduce myself a little bit further. So you see my name. And again, I think of myself as a Bacardi ambassador. This picture is in Dubai with a person who, this one we actually just promoted. She's going to be running what we call a Rising Star program. But she was there setting up displays. And then this is in Aberfeldy, where we make all of our scotch, both Dewar's and all of our single malts. And then this is a group of guys that I cycle with. Last week I spent the week on holiday, and we cycled from England, or from London up to Paris, Paris to Brussels, Brussels to Amsterdam. So if I don't sit, you'll understand why. But a great group of guys. And then this is what really keeps me going, is my family. So we've got my wife up there at the top, and she is with me in Puerto Rico celebrating our 150th birthday, which we attended. And then,
you're not going to let me go.
No, I'm going to keep hitting him on that, right? And then over here is my daughter, Heather. She is now a freshman in university, but this was the year before that. She's into mission work, and so I joined her in El Salvador. You can tell which one is dirty. She got promoted out of the ditch. I never did. And then my son, Scott, over here plays college football. And then my daughter, and this picture is in Bermuda, where I live. And this is after she had a bad breakup, and I brought her to Bermuda to cheer her up and take her out and make her feel special. So that's the family. And I think in life, what you got to have, and you used the word earlier, is passion. And when I'm doing career coaching for people, particularly younger people coming out of school, but really for all of us, right, is find your passion. Don't worry about anything else. Find your passion. What is it that matters most to you? And for me, it's pretty simple. It's faith, it's family, it's fitness, and it's work. Right? And you never have, I don't believe in the balance, what do they call it, life balance stuff, because you can't have balance. You do this really well, then you do this. I believe in compartmentalizing and life fit. Doing things that fit, that help you achieve what you want to in life. Because anytime you push harder in one area, you trade off in another area. And as you manage your career, the further you take your career, you give up other things. But you also get some benefits for that. So life is a trade-on and trade-off. So in my case, I'm based in Bermuda, and it's tough, right? I live on an island, I have to go to clubs at night, but I'm a giver. So, and my kids now are all in university, but it's talking about trade-off. So when I first went there to Bermuda, they didn't have the right schools and sports programs for the kids, so my wife and kids relocated in Florida. So 2 different places, but we made it work, because sometimes you have to give up what you want in order for others to have what they want, in this case, your children and your family. And that's part of, you got to understand them. So even as we talk about engagement, it's understanding your family, it's understanding your friends, and deciding what works well for everybody and understanding how it all comes together. So for me, this is what's important, and so hopefully tonight I get to know you better, but now at least you know a bit more about who I am. So let's talk about what we're here for. What is engagement? Think about that. All of us use the term. And how many of you know this person? When you say, I hate my job. Anybody know anybody like that? Well, I heard a terrific response to that recently. Look at this one. Everybody hates their job. That's why they call it work. They even pay you to do it. You're supposed to hate your job. Okay, is that engagement? No. Do we want those people? No. Neither one, right? You got to get people involved. So what it really is engagement when we talk about it. So I went to a reliable source. Where else do you get good information, right? So in Wikipedia, it says, engaged employee, absorbed by and enthusiastic about their work, takes positive action to further the organization's reputation. What's engagement? Now let's see what I think about it. So I don't know if I saw this quote somewhere and somebody attributed it to me now, but work is only work if you'd rather be doing something else, right? Think about if you really enjoy your work, why did you get into the field you're in? Why did you break off and start your own company, right? Or run a small business? Why do you do that? And if you ever lose sight of that, you become that other person, right? But we have to figure out, how do we get people into this space? Or one of my favorite phrases, when somebody says, oh, I'm so glad it's Friday, I go, me too, only 2 more days till Monday. I'm the kind of guy you want to work with, right? and then, of course, I think the coffee mug sums it up well. I love my job. Isn't that what you want from your people? And everybody in here has responsibility for creating that environment. Don't look next to you, don't look up, don't look down, but look inside. What is your responsibility? Because we can't change others, we can change ourselves, right? So how do we create that? And if you're a fun person to be around, if you're a person who gets things done and you're passionate about what you do, it becomes contagious. Other people want to do it. And once you have enough other people wanting to do that, what happens to people who aren't that way? They self-select out. And that's not a bad thing. Doesn't mean they're bad people, but they may not be right for that organization or your company or your team. So let's take a look at it further. When we talk about employee engagement, we've all seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs. People have to have their needs met, whether it's in a company or whether it's in anything else they do. You've got to have your basic needs met. But I would suggest when you have engaged employees, there's a different triangle to look at. Because if those needs are met, it goes back to, I'm going to use the Bacardi name here, people put Bacardi first, their team second, and themselves last. Because they're saying, what's best for the company? What do I do that's going to help make this company better? You don't have to ask them. You don't have to tell them. You don't have to prod, because they're motivated that way. How many of you know people who have that triangle inverted? and it's about self first, right? Then maybe the team, or maybe it's back to self, right? And then the company. And they might be very smart people, they might be very talented people, but if they don't put the company first, are they really engaged in it? Do they really believe in what that company stands for? Do they really have that enthusiasm? So that's where we want people, over here. And people, I think, generally want to be there, but we have to meet the needs. And we're going to talk more about some of the needs. So the first thing that I think people want to know is they belong to something. You think about when you first got your job. Remember how excited you were to go tell people, hey, guess where I'm working? Remember that feeling? Right? How many of you remember the day, what your first day of work was? The date. Right? We know that, except for some people.
I'm only being honest.
We're only going to teach you.
I know.
All right. So, but people want to belong to something. They want to feel a part of it, right? You want to feel like when you go someplace that you're there, you belong, right? You want to have pride. You want to have pride in your company. And I think about, there's different ways you see that pride. For example, what was one of the first things I showed you? I was so proud.
Yeah.
I have my new tie on it. I found it's an Hermès tie, but it has bats on it. Oh, that's cool. That's Bacardi bat. And you'll never see me without my pen, of course, unless I left it on my pajamas. Other than that, always wear it. But that's what pride is. And then, do you want to feel valued? Do you want to know that where you work, that people say, glad you're here. You're making a difference. Right? You want to feel that way? This is participation part. I'll ask a question. Yes. Right, you want to feel that, right? And contribute. Think about it. There's been studies done, starting back in the 70s, that measured what was it that made people feel the happiest at work. And when did they feel, again, to use our term today, most engaged? And it was when they felt they were contributing or that they could make a difference. That's when people were happiest at work. And things like money, of course, how many get happy when you get a big raise? Right? Of course you do. But what happens when you get a big raise? You get big spending. See, I see those shoes coming, right? You think about all of a sudden your lifestyle changes, and then what do you need? You need more money, right? And that's always, and that's not a bad thing, it's just part of life. But what really makes a difference is when you know you made a difference, or you get a note from somebody that says, hey, I'm sorry, what was your name, ma'am? Your name?
Sue.
Sue. Sue, if you get a note and they say, Sue, I just want to thank you. I wouldn't be where I am in my career if it weren't for the guidance you gave me early on. How many of you gotten those notes before? And what do you do with them?
Keeping them.
Save them, right? That's lockbox material, right? We want to feel valued. And people have got to be involved. They can't sit on the sidelines. They've got to be actively involved. And as an organization, you have to create opportunities for people to be involved and freedom. A lot of companies say, you got to hire smart people. But then what do? They give them a book and say, now do the job according to A, B, C, D. You don't need smart people if you're going to tell them how to do it all. I think what you got to do is hire smart people, give them the ground rules, this is what you've got to achieve, here's the outcome, here's our values, now go make it happen. Give them room for creativity, flexibility, and let them figure out how to get it done. Generally, they'll come up with a better way than you would have anyway. And if not, guess what? Everybody learns. But at the end of the day, it's about winning. It's about winning. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm not competitive. I just like to be first. Right? But if you think about business, sometimes we talk about engagement and only the soft, fluffy stuff. And that's where you can make a mistake. If you're only talking about the fluffy stuff, hey, let's go have a picnic, let's go have a night out, let's go have drinks. But it's not about achieving anything, it won't stay. It won't stay. You have to win. You have to win. So what we talk about is the virtuous cycle for sustainable success. And that means you got to perform and you got to get people engaged. If you don't do both, neither will last. If you just get people feeling good, and that's all you worry about, performance will go down. You'll create a world of mediocrity. And if all you do is drive results and you don't care about people, you won't get those results year after year. Think about a sports team. If they get only focused about that winning that game, and they beat people up along the way, or you've seen it in your companies where you've worked, people who don't value people, what do people do if they don't feel valued? They leave. They leave. And you gotta let people know that you value them. Now, how many of you in here are married or have a partner of some kind? Now, let's do it like we typically say in companies, right? You have a performance review period, right? And that happens once a year. So now picture your partner. You say, okay, honey, it's our anniversary, so today I need to let you know I love you. Didn't really mean you, I mean you. But, so I love you. It's our anniversary, want to let you know that. Get back to you next year. I think I know where I'll be next year. Right, that doesn't work. So why do we do it in a company? Why do we do that in companies? And Kasia, you recruit a lot of people, right? And when companies are recruiting people, they romance them, right? You tell them how important they are, how glad you're going to be when they get on the team. You tell them all those things. Then they start and it's like, oh, what was you doing? Can you go handle that? We forget. So how do you go back to making sure people feel that special connection? So winning performance enablement, identify enablers or barriers to high performance. What do you have to do to knock those down for people so that they can perform? Then on the engagement side, this is where people show the willingness to go above and beyond. To go above and beyond. I remember one of my early jobs was at a restaurant, and I was just a busboy, but it was a big, busy restaurant, 350 people at a time, and it was just like clockwork, and I needed money, so I worked a lot. And I remember, now I'm in HR, I particularly remember this, I remember hiding in the bathroom when the Department of Labor would come, so they didn't know how many hours I was working, right? Because I felt like they were depending on me to be there. And if I only worked what you were legally able to, I wouldn't be there. Now, I'm not advising that we want people to do that, but you think about what kind of commitment. Think about things you've done, times you've gone over and above, like sitting here tonight. Did anybody make you be here? Right? Why are you doing that? You want to be better, right? You're investing. You're investing. And who's going to get the benefit of that investment? The people you work with, right? So that's about getting people here. But if you don't have this, or you don't get the barriers out of people's place, you're not going to get both. Now, those are nice words, but let's look at it in a quantitative manner. This is from a study from Aon that happened over multiple years and involves 6,000 organizations and 7 million people around the world, and looked at companies and said, what happens with companies that have high levels of engagement? And you'll see over here, engaged employees believe in their company and are inspired to perform at their best. Sales growth, 6% above average on multiple years. How many of you would take a 6% increase? Right? That would be fantastic. When employees are fully engaged, they're more productive, committed, and conscientious. Operating margin, on average, 4% higher. Higher employee engagement leads to superior organizational performance. Total shareholder return, 6% higher. There is a business in what we do. We have to learn how to present it as a business. Again, don't talk about the fluffy stuff only. Talk about what the goal is that you're trying to achieve, and take care of people in the process. And I'll show you a simple way that we look at it. 3 simple words. Values-based performance. Values-based performance. What does that mean? We expect the same thing that any of your companies do of our people to perform. And they're held accountable to perform and achieve the goals that are set. And must do it in keeping with our values. If you're achieving goals inconsistent with our values, you don't fit. You won't make it. So it's not an or, it's not perform or values or perform, it's values and perform. Values-based performance. And that's what we drive everywhere in our company, is that we got to have that approach, that attitude. Pretty simple? Now let me show you a very simple formula. I'm going to show this to you once. You'll remember it for life. And you can do it in 3 minutes or 30 minutes. Fortunately for you, you get the 3-minute version. All right? But it's something you can use as you explain to people at any level how you think. So P plus V equals Y. If a person performs and they have our values, yes, that's who we want on the team. Yes, that's who we're going to promote. Yes, that's who we're going to recruit. That's where we want to get everybody. People who perform and they have our values, yes. Now, next one. The person performs, but they don't have our values. They're out. Now, I will tell you, it's easy for me to sit up here and say that to you. And you can sit there and you say, yep, got it, check, I agree. But now I want you to think differently. Think about in your own company, the person who drives the best sales, for example, or achieves whatever it is in your business that you value the most, and they're knocking it down. But they're treating people horribly. Either discriminating, they're harassing, or just generally abusing people, or they just don't value them. That person will never make you as much money as they will ultimately cost you. You got to get that person out. And it's easy in here, hard when you're not in here. Now, but the hardest one is this one. The person has our values, but they're not performing. Why do you think that might be the hardest? If they have our values, what does that tell you about them?
They might want it.
What?
They might want it.
They might
but
want
they
it?
just can't do it.
Right, they might want it, but just can't do it. That's part of it.
Limitation.
Yep. What else?
Experience.
What else would make this hard? Do you think you'd...
Popular?
Popular. Do you think you'd like that person? Yeah. They're popular probably, right? They get along with everybody perhaps. And they're just probably a nice person. But if they can't do the job, what's going to happen? And if you keep rewarding this person, what happens to these people? They leave because it becomes mediocre. But let's come back. What was your name, sir?
Eastern.
I'm sorry.
Eastern.
Eastron. So here's what I would say, Eastron, is exactly where you were going. If that person down here, first of all, they got the big part of the equation. They fit. Isn't that the hardest part? They fit. Don't you struggle with that at times, finding people who really fit your culture? Right? But they're not performing. So why is that? Have they been promoted too high? Right? Have they been trained? Have you done the right coaching? I mean, how many times do you find a leader is kind of shy about telling somebody they're not doing their job well? Until they get up to here, right? Then what do they do if you're in HR? They come to you and they say what? They gotta go. What, have you told them? Well, no, not yet, but we're gonna tell them, and then they gotta go. Right? You've heard that, you've had that conversation. We've got to encourage leaders to have those conversations earlier, because as you were saying, if the person doesn't know, they can't fix it. When's the best time to tell somebody there's an issue?
When there's an issue.
Right away. Exactly. Don't wait. Do it now. Right away. And what does that person do if it happens right away? They're generally more grateful that you told them it's not working. Right? And they appreciate it. They say, you know, my boss, my leader, whatever the term is, they care about me. They show me how to do it the right way. But if you let it become a habit, and then you tell them, what's the reaction? Not good. Right? Not good at all. Not words we can say in a public forum, right? All right. So engagement is finding that which makes your company special. That which makes you special. Dale and I were talking about the words DNA earlier. What is the DNA of your company? That makes your company unique. Because anybody can replicate what you do, what you make, but they can't replicate how you do it. The human aspect of that. So what is that DNA? What is it that makes this gold from your company? Because if you truly believe that you have great people and you have a great company, what is it? How do you tell people about it? How do you get those stories out? How do you get people to understand what's really valuable? And at Bacardi, there's a few things that we talk about. And number one ambition we have we have what we call a plan on a page. And one of the things we have is we want to make Bacardi that people say, this is the place I want to be. When I wake up in the morning, this is where I want to be. I want to be working for Bacardi. Now, in my view, like if all of you were working with Bacardi, I would wake up every morning knowing that all of you are here because you're talented and you're good people. And I'd also wake up saying, I know each of you are capable of getting another job somewhere else. And if Bacardi isn't taking care of you, you're likely to go find that other thing. So how do we make it the place for you? And for you may look a little different to each of you from all of you, right? Everybody has something a little different that's important. But for us, we think values-based performance is critical. That everybody lives up to that we achieve results, but we do it in keeping with our values. We want to be a magnet for high-performing women. And we have great programs on women in leadership, and we've made tremendous improvement from a few years ago. This industry has been a male-dominated industry, and a few years ago, actually in 2009, the chairman said to me, Scott, we've got to do more for women in the company. And we got to get more women in our company. We were slightly under 25% of women in the company. Today, we're around 37, 38%. Pretty good progress and pretty good representation. We still have work to do though at the more senior levels. The level below the top level, we're doing pretty well. That top level, we got to do better. At the board, we're making progress. So, but you have to be intentional about those things. And so we start with a vision, our ambition, be a magnet for high-performing women. That when people think about where they want to go, this is it. And by the way, let me just say on the surface, we don't want somebody in our company because they happen to be a woman. We want great executives who happen to be a woman. And I don't know about you women in here, but I would find it insulting if I were hired or promoted because I'm a woman. We don't do it that way. It's based on merits, but you have to be intentional to go out and find and develop people to get into those levels. And then another ambition of ours is to make Bacardi leaders the envy of the industry. That when people think about where's the best place to recruit the best spirits executives, alcohol executives, we want people to say Bacardi. You know, and I actually had somebody say to me, yeah, but if we do that, people will be recruiting our people. I said, I hope we get there. I want to live that day where that's the issue, that we have that reputation. And people say, yep, that's the best talent in the world is right there. Because guess what, if you have that, what else do you have? You got people, you got engagement, you got people coming up behind, right? Because everybody wants to be there. Next, another ambition of ours is to be the world's most personal international company. World's most personal international company. And I believe we have a chance to achieve that. Because in our company, there are 5,000 people, 5,500, which isn't a lot of people, relatively speaking. I've come from companies with 1 million people at Walmart, 150,000 at DHL. And so you get to know, I might know as many people there, but it's only this much. Whereas in Bacardi, if you think about all of our key leaders, together, collectively, we should know every employee. And that means every level of management needs to get to know as many people as they can. How do you become the world's most personal international company? So for us, these are some of the elements that we think are important to making Bacardi the place I want to be. Now, how do you know if you got it? How do you know if people are really engaged? Right? What are some of the signs? This slide, this can be very quick on this one. First of all, you hear it, right? If people are engaged, they talk about it. You hear it from them as they refer to it. You see it. You see people doing things for the company. They're involved, they're engaged, they're active. You talk about it. How many times are you talking about work in a good way? Right? And you're talking about what's going on, the people, the activities. So you talk about it. And my favorite part of this is others want to be you. They listen to you and they say, oh God, I wish I could work in that company. I wish I could live on an island and go to clubs at night. Right? But that's when you know people are engaged, when these things are happening. So what can you do to get it? Again, first of all, there's no silver bullets, right? And this, I'm going to share with you some ideas, some thoughts from our side over these slides. And then I want to hear more from you about things that you've done and so forth, whether it's over a cocktail or later on in a conversation. First of all, communication. Number one issue, no matter where you go. Communication is never perfect, right? But it's always the number one target. But what people want is consistent, transparent, and authentic. Second, values-based performance I've talked about. Ability to make a difference, we discussed. Visible and approachable leadership. You know, when you go into a place, do you go in with your title first? Or do you go in with just who you are, trying to learn who somebody else is? Who's more important in that meeting? You or the person that you're going to go see? Who's the VIP? And I suggest to you, if you make everybody else the VIP, you're going to have a much more engaged workforce and you're going to have more fun at work. Development. Big issue for people. No matter what generation, the millennials, whoever it is, people want to be able to grow. Now, it might look like a different kind of growth than from people like me who had a different structure where you kind of go to this position, this position, this position. Now people are interested in experiences. They want to go here, they want to go learn this, I want to try this, I want to try and, you know, experience what all this company has to offer. And growth, and in fact, we're redefining the definition of promotion not to be this, but promotion can be this, this, and even this. Sometimes you step back in order to learn and get to know something. For example, if you have only worked domestically and you want to go start to become an international executive, maybe you go to another country, but you take a role that's a little less so that you can be wildly successful in the role, but more importantly, learn about what it's like to work internationally, right? So there's a lot of different ways. So we're redefining what that means. And then having good succession planning. How are you going to keep that talent coming up? And do you have an ambition about how many people should be promoted internally? Our goal is to have 80% internal, 20% external. Right now we're at 70-30, but we're working to improve that. On this side, recognition is an accelerator. Has anybody heard that phrase before? Recognition is an accelerator. Think about it for a moment. Sue, if I was to recognize Sue and I say, Sue, you know what? The questions that you ask are just great questions. And I think you really help bring everybody else along in the room. And if I do that publicly, what does it encourage Sue to do? Ask more questions, engage. What does it encourage others to do? To engage. So that's why we think of recognition as an accelerator. Again, a typical HR person might say, we got to recognize people for the fluffy reasons, right? Because it feels good, it makes them feel good. Well, that's great, it makes them feel good, but more importantly, think about what does it reinforce? Exactly, and what's the business value? What's the business value? And I'm not being dismissive of people feeling good because I think it's a very important thing, but it can't be the only reason. Can't be. You got to think about what are you trying to achieve and recognize the right things. Recognize behaviors, and what do you reward? Results. Reward results. Right? That's what we got to be. Next, make tough calls. This comes back to the slide we saw earlier, the V minus the P, right? If the person doesn't have the values, get them out. If a person isn't performing, if they don't fit, if they're not right for the company, make the call. Get them out, because everybody else already knows it, they're just waiting on you. And again, you have to avoid creating an environment where it's okay to have mediocrity, or it's okay to have non-performers or people who aren't on the team. It encourages more bad behavior, right? And if you want to have an engaged workforce, they got to know that you're protecting that environment, that you're the guardian to make sure that it's the right place for the people that want to belong there, not the reverse. Social responsibility. You know, that's not something that that used to be talked about maybe 15, 10 years ago, but now it's really big. And when we meet with some younger people and we talk about how much we, all the stuff we use, the water we use to make our products, how we're able to filter everything clean back. I think we're at 99.5%. Huge impression on people, huge impression. And we're very green in that way with all of our facilities. And it's a huge impression. That's part of social responsibility. The other part for us is the law doesn't require us to manage like cigarette companies, right? We don't have to do the ads, we don't have to do all that. So we're a self-governing industry, but we also believe it's the right thing. If you think about when we first started and I said making good times great, and one of the first things I said is if you drink too much, it's no longer a great time. Drink responsibly, right? And for us, it's also not catering to underage drinkers. We look at some of these brands out there that kind of violate the self-governance and say, here, try this Fruit Loop flavored vodka. Whipped cream flavored vodka. Who are they catering to? Some of you guys back here that look like you're that age, right? Right? That's not what we should be doing. And then break down barriers. Break down barriers. Speed decision making. How do you get stuff out of the way so people can get on with what they want to do? And a lot of times, all you got to do is ask the question and listen to them. Where are they stuck? And if you can get that out of their way, they're so happy. Because now they can perform. They can do what they want to do. They can perform and contribute. Last, have fun. Have fun. I mean, again, it's only work if you'd rather be doing something else. Don't be afraid to have fun. Have fun in the workplace. Have fun with each other. There's nothing wrong with that. Work should be fun. We spend so much time at it. Enjoy it. Now, at Bacardi, just flip through a few slides here. How to get it at Bacardi? We have a program called Becoming Bacardi. Others might call it orientation or induction, but we say we want to take that further. We want people to become Bacardi. So guess what you learn in our Becoming Bacardi program? You have to learn how to make 6 cocktails. Have to learn. Sorry guys, you're going to have to learn how to go. You're going to have to go to some bars. You have to go to some clubs. But you're also going to have to learn our history. You're going to have to hear the stories. You're going to have to read a book. You're going to have to go visit other people and learn what they did, right? And it's all about becoming Bacardi. Now, we chose those words carefully. Then we have, Camille, you might recognize this person, being a Bacardi ambassador. Best job in the world. You'll hear more about that later from Madame Saint-Germain, who's with us in the back. So how do you get it at Bacardi? You listen to learn from and course correct. And how do we do that? We have the employee opinion survey, right? You listen to that. We have pulse surveys that we do in between the surveys. So we do a full survey every other year. And so in between those surveys, we do pulse surveys, which means a short survey to a smaller representation of people, just to find out how we're doing. Skip level meetings. That's where you meet with people, not your direct reports, but a level, 2 levels below that to find out how they're doing. What are they saying about the company? And where's the next one? There we go. Oops. All right. A little off here. But the other one is action teams. That's my favorite one. Action teams. So, everybody, how many of you do employee engagement surveys? Right? And most companies, after they do the employee engagement survey, they report the results back to the employees and say, as management, and this is what we're going to do to make you happy. The employee sits back and says, okay, make me happy. Never going to happen. You're going to spend more money than you need to, and you're going to work on the things that aren't as important. And if you think about it, a survey is just a point in time. By the time you've done that survey, some of those problems are gone, new problems have emerged. So what we do is we form action teams. And so if we were a group here all on one team, we'd say, okay, here's the top 5 things that people say they're concerned about or don't like. Here's number 1. We only have Coke machines and we want Pepsi machines. People might say, you know what, not a big deal. Second one might be communication. We might get 5 people or 10 people come say, I want to work on that one. And guess what? It's not just supervisors. It's frontline people, and we actually don't want the supervisor to be the leader of the action team in most cases, for 2 reasons. One is we want to make sure that we hear exactly what the issues are, and secondly, it's a great development opportunity for people, right? But then they come up with their solutions, they decide how to implement them, and guess who's happy with the solution? They're engaged, they belong, they're making a difference, and then we need to publicize it in that local group what they got achieved. Inspire and develop. We have that 70-20-10 philosophy. 70% is that you learn on the job, right? And then we have 20% coaching and mentoring, and 10% in the classroom. That's our approach to development, 70-20-10. We have a program called Step Up. So think about it, this is a real simple one, guys. Somebody goes on vacation. What do we typically do? We put a babysitter in there, or nobody, just to keep it while that person's on vacation or maternity, whatever. What we're saying is identify who are your high performers. Take a high performer, and even if not in that department, put them in that role, see how well they perform, see how well they do, measure them, hold them accountable, and all you do is brand it and call it a step-up program. Same thing you already do, except now you do it with high performers, and you formalize it, and you report back out. So there's a bit of structure to it. We have Harvard on the Go, which basically is a Harvard series. You can go to their official program as Manage, Mentor, or something like that. But I met with Harvard 2 weeks ago and told them what we call it, Harvard on the Go, and I think they're going to change it there too. Because it's learning on the go. It's reading, it's going online and saying, hey, I want to learn more about how to sell or how to do this. They have a program for it. You can online take an online course and go through it. Talent exchange. We take a person from one country, send them to another country. We take a person in one portfolio, send them to a different portfolio. It can be anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 months. All it costs you is T&E. But now you've got a high performer. They have to be a high performer. But now they're learning and growing. You've got a good person in there, so they're not going to do any damage of serious nature. And you got another potential person to promote later. Winning at Bacardi is our leadership series. And then a new program we've just created, or in the process of creating, is called Rising Stars. And that won't even be under HR, it'll be under our CEO. And that's for people who are 3 and 4 levels down, that we can tap into and give them assignments, projects, and experiences that they'll report back to the executive committee or to the board of directors on the progress they made. Gives them exposure, gives them real projects, we get the real benefit. Again, they've got to be rising stars to get into it. Leverage recognition as an accelerator I talked about. So we're doing a lot of work there right now. But broad-based incentive plans. Every person at Bacardi is on an incentive plan, right? Every person. We have career pathing that we just put in place, a formalized one. It's called Universe. Short version is you can be sitting at home in your pajamas and you can say, I'm an HR manager today, but I want to be CEO sometime down the road. This system will allow you to see what are all the things you have to do, experiences you have to get, and roles you have to hold in order to become CEO or any other position. Or you can simply say, I want to get to the next level, and it will show you how to do that too. What skills do you have today? What's missing? Job postings. I know that sounds like an old tired one, but if you don't do job posting well, it creates a lot of anger and favoritism concerns in the company. And it's one that we constantly have to battle. And then women in leadership, which I've shared with you earlier. And fifth, heritage and living the brand. I spoke about this program earlier, and the voice you heard before was this gentleman, Juan Grau. Again, 88 years old, has brought in and spoke at different meetings. This is our chairman, Facundo Bacardi, and if you look at any bottle of Bacardi, it's signed by Facundo Bacardi. That was his great-great-great-grandfather who started the company in Cuba back in 1862. So these are people that we brought in to speak that are all retired, either family members or senior executives in the company at the time. And we have cocktail hours. Isn't that great? I mean, I remember when I first started. It says 5 o'clock on Friday, we all go down to the bar. Yeah, we have a bar in our office. Right? But we have the cocktail. We provide lunches for employees around the world, either completely free or highly subsidized by the company. It's not for the free lunch. Why do you think we do it?
So come to booths.
So people come together. So people come together, and they talk, and they communicate, and versus going out. And then we have tastings. You know, again, we have a new product. We want people to try it. We want to know what the recipe is, how to make the drinks. Then dress code. You know, I often get asked when I'm traveling around, well, what is Bacardi's dress code? And I'm like, what do you think it should be? I don't really care. I don't care. Do what's right for you. But I heard a better expression. The person who's running General Motors today is a woman. And she did a stint in HR before becoming CEO. And she referenced the dress code. She said, when I got there, it was a 15-page policy on dress code. So for the life of me, I couldn't understand it. So she changed it to 2 words: dress appropriately. And for some people it was difficult, right? Well, but can I wear this? Can I wear that? Dress appropriately. You know, we're not dealing with kids. Just dress appropriately. And keep things, the whole point is keep it simple. Make it real for people. Talk to people the way they really think. When we try to over-organize things, we're always heading backward. Always heading backward. So, how do you keep it? Last section. How do you keep employees engaged? You've seen, these are kind of what I call the top 10 ideas. Again, not saying these are all the best or all the right ideas, but they're 10 ideas that I give to you to think about. But how do they look? One for me is learn how to sell on the inside. Most companies market to the outside. They talk to all their consumers and customers, but they forget to do the same thing inside. And I find we do that on occasion. We'll come out with a new brand, we'll advertise it, and nobody in the company knows how to mix it. How do you drink it? We got to be consistent at that. So one of my big messages, we got to learn to sell on the inside, because who are your salespeople? Everybody in the company. Everybody's a salesperson for that brand. Everybody. Next, create Hollywood moments, right? Do something for somebody that when they get home, their picture goes on a refrigerator at home, right? So if you're going to give a person an assignment, like one of what I refer to as a step up, what we do is we write a letter to them. It's usually signed by their executive committee member and myself and their local manager. It says you've been accepted into the step up program. How do you think that makes them feel? It's a Hollywood moment, right? Or if somebody does something really well, learn how to recognize people the right way. Now, some people don't like public recognition in some cultures, but most cultures in the Western part of the world, they like a little bit of, yeah, recognize me or my team, and or my team, right? Recognize them. Don't hold back. It's free. And most people don't, if you give, you're worried about how much money do we give them, what's the value of this. If you do recognition well, people almost don't remember the money they got or whatever else you give them, but they remember that they were recognized, that you cared enough to thank them and thank them publicly and specifically for what they did. Recognition is an art. You got to learn to do it well. And lastly, I've said it almost last, keep focused, narrow and deep, and most importantly, how many of you in HR are in HR in this room? Okay, this one's real important. Don't be an HR nerd, right? Don't come out with all these HR terms and all this stuff. Talk in real terms. Think about what real people do. And if you haven't worked the line in whatever your business is, if you haven't gone to the front, get out in front. Get out and work with people. Understand what's really important to them. Talk to them. Learn to talk in the language that's important to them and deliver what's important to them, right? That's what's going to make the difference. So the key is to have the perfect recipe for the perfect serve. The perfect recipe for the perfect serve. And at Bacardi, we say that's 2 parts, visible leadership and aligned goals. 2 parts, transparency and clarity. 3 parts, recognition, development, and fun. Decorate mixed with passion and pride, right, which is our heritage. Prepare, fill the glass with P+D. Blending these ingredients into a consistent way and serving with authenticity, you can retain high levels of engagement to drive sustainable business results. And celebrate success.
That's right.
So thank you for that.